We all start focusing on the goal so much that we forget the path to the goal, how to get money in that cycle. You're going to not enjoy what you're doing, and if you're not going to enjoy what
ठीक है boss, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy that young children like you are doing such great stuff.
Arey.
Wishing you the very best. And I hope I can justify your podcast today.
Yeah, but don't call me a child, yaar.
For me, you'll always be a child because my son is all your age. So for me, that's what I'll feel.
No worries. But I just went through your facility over here. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I've only played golf. Mobile में खेलते हैं ना.
I started making my golf course उसी तरह से.
Okay.
मोबाइल में खेलता था और मुझे लगा यार बहुत हो गया मोबाइल में खुद का बनाते हैं. That's how I started. I mean, that's the actual story when I started making the golf course.
Yeah, because you mentioned later on you have rooms over here. You know, around 50 plus rooms you have.
True.
So even I'm working at in business development at a sourcing and procurement firm. So it was good to kind of relate, just see what all is going on in a resort or a hotel, you could say.
True.
And all the interiors and all. So I just want to start off can you talk about, there's many topics I want to discuss with you about. I've seen your past interviews.
Sure.
Why golf? Like, what's the interest behind it?
To be honest, golf happened to me some 18 years back. As I just mentioned, I used to play golf till then. My only knowledge about golf was limited to playing it on my mobile phone. Or before I would go off to sleep in the night, put it up on the TV because it's all green all around, and you get to sleep very peacefully because with the greenery around, it sort of pleases your mind, and that's the only golf I knew. It so happened that 18 years back, I happened for some reason travel all the way to Bavla and further up where today Kensville stands. And I saw a part of Kensville project which was probably at standstill at that point in time. They had made 2 or 3 greens at that point in time, and it looked beautiful. And it was being built by a friend, Munish Patel, at that point in time. And I, in fact, called up Munish and asked, what makes you do something like this so far and so out? And the immediate thought process which followed was that my father, who has been pioneer of different clubs in the city of Ahmedabad, who in fact founded and started Karnavati Club, was on me at that point in time telling me that why don't we start another club, why don't we do one more club this time and do it where Gulmohar exists at this point in time. And I always used to feel that why would somebody come so far? There was no real unique selling point to a normal club to build. And when I saw this golf, I sort of latched on to that idea that if somebody could think of doing something 50 plus kilometers away from the city, I had this parcel of land which was so close to the city of Ahmedabad. So why not get into setting up a golf club? And that was that first seed of thought, which was that, okay, I want to do a club, but I don't want to now do just a club. Let me, expand my vision and look at doing something which I had never envisaged on a much larger landscape, on a one much larger space, and build a golf club in the city of Ahmedabad, which in fact did not have any at that point in time. I distinctly remember when we floated the project, Times of India ran a story on us on the first page saying that father and son duo start the first golf club in the city of Ahmedabad. So it was so new that it was in fact a news for the city itself to be covered on the first page of a leading newspaper.
Yeah, didn't CM Mr. Modi come at the time?
He did. He came in 2014 when we built our sports facility because golf had already started at that point in time. We were already in the middle of our golf course and construction, which was already done. And then we decided to build a sports facility which had all the other sporting needs which anybody would want. So like tennis, badminton, squash, billiards, table tennis, gym, aerobics, swimming, spa. So these were the facilities which we were building, and we invited at that point in time Mr. Modi, who was then our chief minister, to come and do the inauguration, because that was also the very first for the city of Ahmedabad. Till then, Ahmedabad never had a sports complex, a dedicated sports facility. Auda's sports complex, in fact, came in much later after we built the very first sports facility in the state of Gujarat, in fact, where every sport was housed within one complex and not like the other clubs that we go to where things would be scattered around. Here it was a very dedicated, pure sports approach to doing something, and hence Narendra Bhai sir was very impressed, and he said that, yeah, I would love to come and open the facility for you people.
How did you get in touch with him though?
We have some common friends whom I know who knew Mr. Modi very well and who could impress upon him the fact that what we have built was worthy enough for his time to come in and do that, to make him understand that this was not just an ordinary sports facility, but this was something which was done with a lot of passion, which was of an international standard, and which he would in fact be proud of showcasing it to the common masses as well, that this is, hey, look here, this is what we have. In fact, Mr. Modi, in his visit to Japan, once he became the Prime Minister, mentioned couple of times that एक बार गुजरात तो आइए और देखिए हमारे golf courses कैसे हैं. So he was trying to impress upon the fact that Gujarat also has golf courses and the Japanese should come in and spend more time in the state of Gujarat.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to build a golf club. I've seen the irrigation systems. You have the computerized irrigation systems, the maintenance of the quality of the grass, the minute details that have to be managed and all. It's not easy.
It's surely not. It isn't, and it needs first and foremost a lot of passion to do something. So unless and until you do not have the passion to build something and maintain it to its highest standard, you can never succeed. So whenever you build something up or design or do something in life, always remember, which I've learned a long way, is that don't just look at a facility as its one capex cost, but also look at it from the point of its maintenance cost as well, because that's also something which you will have to spend at the end of the day to run a facility.
Yeah. So you started off your career, joining the family business.
True.
When was that, and why did you decide to join the family business?
Well, it was more of a natural integration of joining family business, coming from a entrepreneur family where my father, the first generation entrepreneur, started our business, and we were into, in fact, publication house. We used to run a printing and publication house by the name of Parikh Jala Prakashan and Parikh Prakashan. It was one business which was not very tempting to me. I had freshly done my engineering in civil, and hence I was very tempted to explore more into the field of construction, of building things, and developing real estate. At that point in time, in mid-90s, my father was also running a real estate company, and hence it was a very natural integration that, all right, there is a parcel of land available. The next thing you can do is either sell the land as is, what is basis, or develop the land, improve its the way the land is, change it from an agriculture to a non-agricultural land, cut plots out of it, makes homes on it, and then sell. And since I'd already studied civil engineering, it was sort of a natural integration to sort of move to the next one and do that. And that's how I ended up joining family business, which was more or less a line which I had to develop on my own. So I joined a business, but we never had construction as one of our verticals when I joined, because my father was purely into real estate and not into construction. So I had the opportunity to start the construction vertical in our business, and then later on start the hospitality segment of our business.
So construction, as in what was your first project?
I started working on basically my dad, because we were into real estate, I was very lucky to get a very large space to do. So we started with a scheme called Gokul Vrindavan, which was at that point in time spread in close to about 60, 70 acres of land, so as large as what Gulmohar stands right now. And he got me in touch with the leading architects of the city of Ahmedabad, Kamal Mangaldas and Devendra Bhai Shah. So Kamal Bhai and Devendra Bhai were our principal architects. We decided to do twin scheme called Gokul and Vrindavan. Gokul were non-agricultural parcel of lands, and which was smaller in size of 1,000, 2,000 square yards. Vrindavan were much larger plot sizes of 5,000 square yard plus. And which were agriculture or farmhouses that were there. So we're trying to cater to both the segments of community, financially speaking, one who could afford a smaller space, one who wanted a larger space or was aspiring for a larger space to spend their weekends in. And then we designed some 6-7 different types of houses to build on it. We started that project, was a very, very lukewarm response that we got. So a project which I thought would be a very easy to just go out and do it actually turned out that something which ideally I would have done in a 2 to 3 year span, I took close to about 10 to 12 years to really finish that project out.
So that your first project took 10 to 12 years.
Yes, and that was a lot of learning. And I still remember when I started the project, because I had zero experience in construction. I would be the site supervisor. I would also be the site engineer. I was also the storekeeper. I was also, in a way, a watchman who would take care of the materials which would come in. And then in the second part of the day, I will go back to our office, and I'll also become the owner and then sell that project. I'll also be the marketing manager, and I will also be the bill checker, the bill maker, the bill checker, and pay the contractors also, because beyond the finance part, which obviously my father was helping me with and holding that portfolio, every other segment of master planning or conceptualization of a plan to its execution, to its supervision, to its selling was more or less handled by me. And since I was too novice at it, I had no clue how to go about it. I took probably a lot more time than ideally what one would have needed to do a project like this.
Yeah. So this was in your early 20s, late 20s?
Yes, it was my early 20s to my late 20s, early 30s, I would say. To a point in time, I was so frustrated that I would say just before Gulmohar happened in my life, couple of years before that happened, I was at a space in life where I thought, am I even doing the right thing, or should I actually move out and do something else, or probably take up a job, or so it was that a phase in my life where I stopped believing in myself. I thought that I'm probably not good for anything because nothing was falling right. I was taking too long to do something, and it was just an endless try and no real success happening at all. So it were strong. I would, when I look at those times now, retrospectively speaking, I think those were the very strong times which molded me to what I am today.
Yeah. So in your previous interview with Passion Vista, you had mentioned there was a 10-year difficult period in your life.
True.
Is that the 10 years?
Those 10 years, which was a tough one. The markets were down. The real estate was not doing good. The stock markets were pathetic. The country itself was going through a lot of turmoil and change. So overall, everything was gloomy, and I entered our business during that time. And I felt that while I was struggling to do so many things, because the only segment which was not performing during those 10 years was real estate. Pharmaceutical companies were booming, industries were booming, IT, computer, everything was on a high. So every other industry keeping the real estate on the side, everything was doing phenomenally well. And you will understand it very well when you are just freshly out of your education, you get into a business mode, and you have your friends who are also doing the same thing. Now you meet those same friends over the weekend, or spend some amount of time over a month with them, and you realize that over the last few years they have just climbed so much, and you're still stuck at that same space. You've really not had an opportunity to move beyond those stepping stones, and then you start questioning yourself that, am I actually doing right, or have I really faltered? Because you know that you're decently smart, you know that you're honest at your work, you know that you're hardworking, you know that you are not cutting any corners. You perhaps believe that you're doing everything that's right to be done, and yet there is something which is not happening right with you. So what is going wrong? and hence that self-doubt comes into to a great extent.
Yeah, so based on what you know now about business and whatever learnings you've had, and you could share, and if there was a world where you could share that stuff with your earlier self in his 20s, was there a way to cut that 10-year period short based on what you know now?
I would ideally say, even if I knew, I will not cut it short.
Really?
Because those were my molding years. If I wasn't molded the way I was molded, I would not be what I am today. So that's what actually, it's like a steel will only be a steel if it is hit again and again and again to really get the best quality of strength out of it. So it will have to be heated to the extreme temperatures and then also hit with a hammer enough number of times to mold it the way it should be molded into a shape you want. And I think those 10 years were that. But if I have to give a piece of advice to someone, I would say we keep hearing about this thing that do not give up, or give that one more try, or that opportunity is just beyond that door and you almost reached the door and you turned around, and which is a fact. So don't leave it. If you believe in yourself, if you believe in what you're doing, if you're passionate about what you're doing, do not worry about the results. Sooner or later, things will happen and things will follow just the way you would want them to happen.
So that's a guarantee. You don't give up, you will get what you want. It's
Absolutely. It's a guarantee.
Okay. You relate this with another policy you have in your company or maybe life as well, the no shortcuts policy.
Absolutely.
You mentioned it before. Can you talk about that?
So I've realized that in my life, when you go through a lot of, everybody goes through a lot of ups and downs. And when you are going through a life journey, you generally try out different ways and means of doing it. And life will also offer you sometimes opportunities which are those shortcut opportunities or those short gain opportunities where by doing very little, you see a lot of good things happening. It's like saying that you're walking on the street and you see a 1,000 rupee note lying or a 500 rupee note lying somewhere, and you could just pocket it in and you're rich by 500. Or you could actually look around and see if there's somebody else who could have dropped it and go out and return it back to them. So it's something like this, that if you take a shortcut, it is more or less a guaranteed failure, is what I have realized over the years. And I would put it up in this way, that many a times at my work, if I'm building something, and I would have two ways of doing something. I would have one way where I could cut corners and make a product more cheaper, economical, and probably not as long lasting as it should be, but my profit margins may be much higher. To vis-a-vis, I could build a product which could be more expensive, more time consuming, better finish, better looking, but will have much more longevity to that product. And I've realized that whenever I've done the latter, I have always earned more reputation, more credit, more credibility, more sales and happening, and end of the day also a more satisfaction of having created something which was genuinely what you wanted without cutting any corners. Vis-a-vis, whenever I have not done that, I've always felt that I have had quick profits which I would have made, but on a long term I would have disappointed someone. I would have spent more on its maintenance, more on its bringing it back to its original form. It's like redoing something is always more difficult than writing something on a clean slate, because when you have to redo, you have to first erase the old one and then redo something. So it's obviously more time, more money, everything. Whereas a clean slate to write on is always better, and hence absolutely we've seen to it that our office also follows or as a business philosophy we have this no shortcut, not acceptable, we don't allow. And if anybody does in our organization, that's almost a certainty that the doors are open, please walk out, we don't need you anymore.
Yeah, I could see that with the staff that I spent time with. They were kind and they were good.
Thank you. So that's what they have been trained to do that, and not just trained but made to understand that this is the correct way of what the organization expects, and also for your own growth, this is perhaps also the best way where we do not do shortcuts.
Yeah, can you give an example where you didn't follow this strategy? Because obviously you've learned this, you haven't.
Uh, there could be multiple such examples which could have happened. I'm not sure if I can recall one to pick up immediately, but I would say, yeah. For example, I made the golf course, and while making the golf course, what I realized, or I had an option of, was I could do my sprinkler systems where the water would fall inside the bunkers or would not fall inside the bunkers. I was pressed on time, I was pressed on my budgets. I decided that I let the water fall inside my bunkers, and it's okay. I don't have to keep the bunkers dry, and that's okay. And even to date, after having spent 18 years in this thing, if I ever would regret one thing I did wrong in my golf course, was that I still let the water fall in my bunkers, making my bunkers more difficult to play, not as pleasing to play from, and hence we deploy more staff to keep them to that level. So once the water falls, we send in caddies to rake the bunkers again so that they're dry again, and it's always not possible to do that, so sometimes we miss out on it as well. And I genuinely regret that, wish I had not taken that shortcut, given that few extra months, given that little bit more of budget to that thing, and I would not repent that decision of mine till date. And in fact, very recently, we reached out to the gentleman who had designed our, or rather executed our irrigation system, and asked him to give us a fresh quote if we could change this mistake. So we said that we'll now spend more than what we have, and now what we would spend is actually going to be, I don't know how many more X's that we'll end up spending to change this design, only to achieve this one little thing where the water will no more fall in our bunkers, to give that better playing field, that better feel, and overall the whole scape will look much better.
That's a very good. I've never heard this policy before. No shortcut policy, and I'll start implementing.
Please do. I'll trust me. You will not repent it.
Yeah, it makes sense because लोग का mindset ही it's shortcut. How can I get this fast?
Every time, हर एक चीज. So I don't know if we all understand or realize that, but there are no free lunches ever. There is never a free lunch which anybody ever gets served. You always have to work for your lunch. And the shortcut thing is the same thing, because for a shorter gain, you may want to get very easily tempted. I'm getting name, I'm getting fame, let me just take this shortcut, I'm getting more money to this. But on a longer run, you're always going to be caught, you're always going to be found out, and you're always going to repent you've done. As I was giving you that small example, on a road you find a 500 rupee note and it's so easy to just pocket it, forgetting the part that it could have fallen off from a person's pocket who could be the who's who. For him that 500 would never matter, but by you returning that 500 to him, you could actually build in a relationship which could be worth for you for millions, because he could actually be looking for someone like you, and that's what could be achieved. So absolutely, shortcuts have short lives, and not taking shortcuts opens up plethora of opportunities for everyone.
Yeah, because I've caught myself sometimes, when I'm working or मुझे work नहीं पसंद, I'm like, how can I find some tool, or how can I make a new system to do this faster, maybe give it to somebody else. But in searching, I work hard in finding a solution to not do that work, but I don't do the work. I've caught myself doing that.
True, and I'll tell you, this is a little psychological thing, but why are humans born, and what is that one thing that we want to look for?
Comfort.
Exactly. So for everything we want comfort, and the comfort is only when we can be more lazy. So that's what we all want. We all want to be more lazier in a way, one way or other, in terms of doing the same thing in a more easier way, is how I'm trying to define the laziness. That I want to do the same thing in a more easier way. Earlier I used to write an email, and now I type. Earlier I used to write a letter, now I type an email. So it's just an easier way of communicating, because I do not want to spend so much time because I want to do more things in the limited time I have on this planet Earth, and hence I want to find ways and means of doing the thing quickly. And hence at times we forget the part that when I do not want to do something and I find ways of making that thing easier, instead if we could only say that, like, I do not want to do this thing, I'm sure many other people do not want to do the same thing. Let me find a solution which is for the larger audience and not just for me. And when you could do that, you could actually revolutionize the whole industry by doing something like that, because perhaps a lot of other people are also looking for similar solutions.
Right, right, true. I want to go back to your early days. You mentioned that you had a pampered childhood. What was
Absolutely.
that?
So, I have two elder sisters.
Okay.
In fact, a little while back, we were hearing some background loud noises. That was one of my sister who was in the next cabin. I have two elder sisters. The eldest sister is 7 years elder to me. The elder one is 5 years elder to me. And that's so probably after 7 years of first daughter, I was born to my parents, and that was in late 30s when I was born to my parents, which made me a very specially pampered child, because I was the third in the family. I was the only boy, and in earlier days it was so important to have a male child in the family, and that too after two daughters I was born. And because I was the youngest, I was pampered not only by my father and mother, but both my sisters used to pamper me a lot as well, because for them I was that small little toy they could play with. So they could have all the fun with me doing things which ideally they could not do with anybody else. I was that scapegoat, but in a happy way, a scapegoat where they could put a lipstick on me as well, and make me eat a chocolate also, do whatever they wanted to do with me as a doll in the house. And hence for me not to complain, I would get an extra chocolate out of them. And for my mother, because I was the youngest and a boy, I was always that pampered child. So I always realized that till I went out to do my engineering, which was post 12th standard, to Vallabh Vidyanagar, I was only based in Ahmedabad, and I stayed in that cocoon, a very, very protected environment where I was always surrounded by someone who was there to protect me, to love me, to take care of me, of my needs. I had to just say I wanted this, and would more or less be done for me, whether it was buying a new pair of clothes or whether it was a particular type of food I wanted to eat. I would, within a reasonable limit, almost everything that I would want, my parents, especially my mother, would see to it that I got that. And very honestly speaking, only when I went to college, I realized that words like acquaintances exist. I never understood that there was a word called an acquaintance. So you and I could just be an acquaintance, and we are not friends, or things like that could even exist in a dictionary. Because for me, everyone fell only into one category, so which was either family or friend. And friend meant that you could just give your life for each other. So that's the only thing that I understood till I actually went out and started to be open to the world, that there are people whom you call as acquaintances, and there could be people who may not always mean good for you. There could be people who could mean malice to you as well.
So how important was it for you to get out of that cocoon?
It was absolutely, I think, the most important thing needed for me, because had I studied a little more, I would have ended up doing engineering from Ahmedabad, because I lost on the civil engineering from LD Engineering College by 1 mark. So just a little bit more had I studied, I could have probably ended up doing engineering from Ahmedabad, and in turn I would have never got out of that cocoon. So I'm happy I didn't study too much, and I ended up going to Vallabh Vidyanagar to do my engineering, and it opened me up to the world in a very different fashion. Please understand, I come in from an age where I've seen the whole transition happening. You people were born from a point in time when you have not seen or you've only seen the developed India. I come in from a time when there were only ambassadors and Fiat which existed. And a Maruti was a very big thing that happened, and pagers, we went crazy that, oh, there is a paging system available, to actually buying the first Nokia banana phone, which we felt was so small. And today when I compare it with my iPhone, I think it's double the size of an iPhone, but we still use those banana Nokia phones. So we lived a transition life from being in a cocoon as a country, as a state, as a city, to seeing a lot of developments happening in terms of technology, in terms of infrastructure. We never saw high rises coming in till the CG Road or the Ashram Road, where the tall buildings used to come in. The Reserve Bank of India building, which happened on Ashram Road, was a landmark. We used to go and see that and just see that, oh wow, beautiful, how does this building look? And it was just a 10-story building. So we never had seen those things, to now being a very common sight to see a tall building. We again did not have the internet. Please understand, the internet only happened in the mid 90s. In the late 90s, when it bloomed so much. So I did my engineering from 91 to 95, where there was nothing online, everything was offline. There's nothing called an online. To buy a railway ticket, we would stand in the queue and had to go and pay and buy a ticket, or there would be a tout, an agent who will buy it for you. So our airline tickets would be a whole booklet. There would be 10 pages for one flight from Ahmedabad to Bombay, where there would be carbon copies of the same ticket put in multiple folds, with a nice Air India logo and a page on the first and the last page. I come in from a time where it was official to smoke on an airline. We could actually book a seat and smoke a cigar or a cigarette sitting behind. You know, like young boys like you, when I was your age probably, it was a fad to smoke. So if you're traveling alone without your parents, it would be a great opportunity to sort of get that high that you're smoking at 35,000 feet up in the air, because that was official to do. There was hardly a security check that we ever went through. So that's the transition. What I'm trying to share with you is that we went through, and hence this is what was so important for me, to have actually got out of the city of Ahmedabad, to actually be exposed to these changes at a much quicker pace. Probably had I been in Ahmedabad, I would not have had so many opportunities to see that. Probably I would be shielded from the good and the bad. So the bad would have been shielded out, and only the good would have filtered into me.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, as you said, the transition in your life. I'm just thinking about मेरे life में what will I see that I'm like, oh my God.
I'm sure we'll all see together. We'll see robots happening. We'll see
But again, it's not that
artificial
impressive.
intelligence taking away things, and probably we'll go back a cycle and then start seeing back again, where people want the nirvana and going to the mountains and dissuading or distancing themselves from all of this.
Yeah, but that's different. We know what's going to happen. For you, it was like, I don't know what is going to happen. It's like, phone aaya, bhai, kya hai?
True.
So when I see a robot, I'm like, what a robot.
Yeah, it's a nothing. It's a theek hai, chalo hai. I agree. For us, it was a big thing. Just imagine, we only cars we had seen was either a Fiat or an Ambassador. These were the only two cars. 118NE was the third new car, which a version of Fiat which came into the market. And when Maruti came in, we were like all crazy. Like there used to be queues, or the bookings would spill over to 6 months of waiting period to get hold of one Maruti car, and you'll still end up paying premium to the dealer. The dealer would probably, in those times where a lakh rupee was such a big thing, or the most premium car would not cost beyond 4-5 lakh rupee, people were ready to pay a lakh rupee as premium on it, meaning a 25% premium on something. Just imagine you're buying a vehicle today and somebody would ask you to pay a 25-30% premium. Would we pay? We won't. We have so many multifold options to select from. In fact, people are right now ready to come and give you loans to purchase vehicle. And at that point in time, even getting a loan was a tough thing. We never knew that there was, I mean, It was when Marutis came in is the time when loans also came in, when banks decided that, okay, we'll give you a car loan to buy a vehicle. Until that, we all used to do was pay money to the dealer slowly over a year's time, and then wait for another 6-8 months before a dealer would give you a car. So that was the timeline. Or one house, one air condition, one car, that is it. And today, so we'll all, and one television.
Yeah.
One television, one air condition, one vehicle. That's all we would have. And it was like a big thing. Oh, तेरे घर में एसी है, मैं आता हूँ आज रात को यार तेरे घर पे सोने. मतलब वैसा था. और ये टीवी है यार, मैच देखना तो पड़ेगा यार, इंडिया पाकिस्तान चल रही है, तेरे घर आ सकता हूँ मैं देखने. मतलब that is the way we lived our life, and that too on a black and white television. A colored television happened probably when I was in my teens, but when I was probably 13 or 12, 13 years old, I think, 10 years old. 1983, I was 10 years old, World Cup happened, we won the World Cup. And I remember my dad seeing the match on a Crown black and white TV. And at times, we would have to like bang the TV because वो बंद हो जाता था चलना. तो वो मारते तो अपने आप that it would, the picture would come back. To a time when we have flat screens and LED screens to the highest pixels that you could think of. So that's the journey we have seen.
Just imagine now people, TV nature has to start hitting it. It's different. So just how, next question now. So just how you went out of your cocoon, how are you making sure, or do you want to get your kids out of their cocoons?
Absolutely. So I'll tell you, I have one very important thing I've always believed is that learning should never stop. You have to keep learning. You have to keep sharpening your skills as many times as you can, and never give up on the fact that if there is an opportunity to learn, do not be shy. Never think that I know everything. There's always something I should ideally be learning from even today. There's something in you which you know better than me, and if I could learn, it's something up my sleeve. And with that in mind, I first and foremost continued on that path of learning and went on doing something or other in my life as far as education was concerned, and I'm still doing something at this point in time as I speak to you in terms of learning. And since I was so sure about this, because that's what my parents taught me, because they themselves were double graduates and had done masters, so for them also education was something very important in our family. I've seen to it that both my children also get similar type of education and exposure, and in fact my son is right now doing a double undergrad program where he just completed his one undergraduation from Emory University in Atlanta in economics and math, and right now he's pursuing his civil engineering from Atlanta only, from a college called Georgia Tech. So I've seen to it that he also puts in a lot of efforts into learning, and even after he finishes this, I would want him to keep continuing on this path of learning.
What are your thoughts on the difference between education and learning? Education as in the sense what you're being taught in school or university, and learning in the sense what you're doing outside of it.
So I'll tell you, everybody has this eureka moment. I'm sure you must have had it as well. And if not, you'll soon have it while you finish your studies at this point in time. And this eureka moment is a point in time when you are no more studying just to clear a class. Now you're studying because it sort of just gives you the pleasure of learning what is in front of you. It just gives you that amazing feeling that that sort of makes your brain cells go all going up and gives you a different high. And that's that eureka moment where it's no more cramming of a subject, it's no more learning those definitions, it's no more doing those journals, it's no more doing those grammar sheets to clear an examination. It's now something where your professor, your teacher is teaching you something, and that something just entices you. It makes you look and think beyond. It wants you to ask questions. It wants you to sort of be the first one in the class to raise hands and say, why this, why that. You want to challenge it. Your own mind is telling you something else, and you want to challenge what is placed in front of you, or accept it and explore and go beyond what has been put in front of you. And that's what the difference between education to learning. And once that eureka moment happens, trust me, everything is learning, because then whatever happens, you're learning from it. You're learning that how jugards could work. You're learning that how doing a certain thing in a different way could yield better results. So anything, everything in front of you, your eyes, your mind, everything looks at it from a perspective of absorbing and grasping and learning something out of it.
How do you learn these days? Do you read books or?
Lot of things. So for me, learning is something where you have to be passionate about. Lately, I've been very passionate about the fact that I want to learn how to fly an aircraft. So what I'm pursuing right now is actually learning how to fly an aircraft. In fact, last Friday, I gave my first written examination at the DGCA, the Director General of Civil Aviation India. They conduct an examination across India, various centers, where anybody who is pursuing a career in a private pilot license or a commercial pilot license have to give a certain number of examinations. These are written examinations. There are 3 to 5 papers that you're supposed to clear. And I in fact gave my first paper examination just last Friday. So that's learning for me, where I want to learn how an aircraft behaves, why does it fly, what makes it fly, what are its parts, how does the engine work, what sort of oil goes into it, why does it do a certain performance at a certain level, why it won't do, what if things would fail in it, and what would be the procedure to recover out of it, how could I be safe if my engine would fail, so all of it. And that's what I want to learn, because I want to learn how to fly an aircraft, and that's what I'm actually pursuing at this point in time.
I know why you're trying to learn it. So next to this golf club, you're trying to build an airstrip over here, and then
Actually not, but I thought that with all of you children doing so good, sorry I'm calling you a child again, but all of you entrepreneurs, young people doing so brilliantly good for themselves, I've realized that what next in your life is going to be, you all would no more be driving cars, you all will be flying aircrafts, and you all will need air strips to land. So I thought that I should take a head start, learn it so that I can build one for you people, so you can come and land your aircraft, or if nothing else, I can get a job to fly your aircraft. So that's the idea.
done. I'll let you know for when I buy my plane.
Done.
You can
Give
be
me a
the
first
pilot.
chance to come in and sit next to you for a joyride.
Okay, but in that journey to buy a plane, like, what's the one mistake that I should be aware of? Okay.
The most important mistake we all commit and all end up doing is that we all start focusing on the goal so much that we forget the path to the goal, the passion that made us even select that goal. And if you keep doing that, you will never reach your goal, because end of the day, your goal is, if it's buying an aircraft, which in some form or other you're saying that I need so many X amount in my bank balance to buy an aircraft, you now only focus is on money. Your only thought morning, evening, afternoon, night is how to get money in that bank account. So you will not enjoy what you're doing, and if you're not going to enjoy what you're doing, you will not put in your best foot forward. If you'll not put in your best foot forward, you will not get the results that you really desire to have. And if that's not going to happen, you're again not going to go back and have that money in your bank balance. So what's so important to me has been that let passion drive you. Let passion be the one which excels you, puts the fire in your belly to do things. Let everything else be a byproduct. And that byproduct will happen the way you want it to happen, but do not pursue don't make that byproduct your principal product. Because the minute you start making that your principal product, you will fail. And what is important at time is not the sense of ownership, but it is also at times the passion or the journey leading you to that ownership, or looking at the same thing in a different way. So let me say, if you were to say that, hey, I want to buy an aircraft, and since we're talking about that, you could just buy shares of a Boeing company somewhere or other, or an Airbus. You will be owning an aircraft. Buy shares of an Indigo or an Akasa airline, or any of the other Vistara, and you'll still be part of the airline, because you'll still have a share in that aircraft because you bought the shares of those companies. So you don't have to buy an aircraft to own an aircraft. You could still find a way around it also, what I'm trying to say is, and make your money. Or if passion is what is driving you to do things, then focus on the work on hand and forget about the results. And if you have not taken any shortcuts, if you've done what you're supposed to do, somewhere or other, what you were looking at will happen in your lifespan. So do not be too over indulged in just that end product of money.
So I like to have debates. So I agree with the fact. I've heard both sides of the argument. So the argument to your answer is ki people say ki the result is all that matters. And there's a second argument which is like it's similar to that lines. Ki the result is all that matters. You don't need passion. You do something, you get good at it, you'll make money. That's the argument.
So let's resonate with what the argument is for a minute. Let's resonate and say that, okay, if that's what somebody is doing, the destination is the same.
Right.
The destination is the same in either case, whichever path you choose. One path was of passion and reaching a destination, one path of forget the passion, just do what you're doing and reach the destination. The person taking the journey is you. The same person who's going to go on either the left or the right is the same person going to do it. The destination, again, reinforcing, is the same. Person is the same. Paths are different. So which fool would want to take a path which is hurtful to them? You know, we discussed in the beginning itself, every human only wants one thing: to make life more easier, make it more lazier, make it more comfortable. So why would you not go on a path which has more pleasure for you than to go on a path which has the least amount of pleasure for you, which is just hardcore work, and where you curse yourself for being on that path till you do not reach the destination? Or go on a path which is very enjoyable. So why would won't it be foolhardy for somebody to take the other one? And I leave the answer to your own intelligence, or the people who say this, to decide that which one is the better one to choose from.
No, that's a good answer. Yeah. So man, that's all I had to ask you for today. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you, and wishing you the very best.
You too.
Thank you.